a legacy of strength, the enduring struggle for women's rights. The fight for women's rights is a story as old as time, a narrative woven into the very fabric of human history. It's a story of resilience, of courage, of unwavering hope in the face of adversity. Women have always been at the forefront, pushing boundaries and challenging the status quo. From the dawn of civilization, women have been fighting for their voices to be heard, their rights to be recognized, and their contributions to be valued. In ancient societies, women often played crucial roles, yet their stories were frequently overshadowed. This struggle has taken on many forms throughout history, adapting to the changing times and evolving challenges. It's been waged on battlefields and in courtrooms, in classrooms, and in the streets. Each arena has seen its own unique battles, from the right to vote to the right to education. And while the fight is far from over, we stand on the shoulders of giants, women, and men who dared to dream of a better world and dedicated their lives to making that dream a reality. Their sacrifices and victories have paved the way for the progress we see today. This essay is a journey through that history, a chronicle of the enduring struggle and the remarkable progress made. It's a testament to the women who came before us, who fought tirelessly for the rights we enjoy today. Their stories are a source of inspiration and a reminder of the power of collective action. We will explore the lives of women in ancient civilizations where seeds of equality were sown. These early efforts laid the groundwork for future generations to build upon. We will witness the struggles and triumphs of women throughout the Middle Ages, the Renaissance, and the Enlightenment. Each era brought its own challenges and opportunities for women to assert their rights and make their mark. And we will trace the evolution of the women's rights movement, from the early suffragists to the modern-day champions of equality. The journey from the suffrage movement to contemporary feminist movements highlights the ongoing nature of this struggle. But this is not just a history lesson. It is a living, breathing narrative that continues to unfold. It is a call to action, a reminder that the fight for women's rights is far from over and that each of us has a role to play. For while we have come a long way, there is still much work to be done. The progress we celebrate today is the result of relentless effort and unwavering determination. Women around the world continue to face discrimination, violence, and oppression. These issues are pervasive and require our collective effort to address. The fight for equal pay, reproductive rights, and an end to gender-based violence is far from over. These are fundamental human rights that must be upheld and protected. This is our time to rise up, to raise our voices, and to demand change. We must continue to advocate for policies and practices that promote equality and justice. Let us honor the legacy of those who came before us by fighting for a future where all women are free and equal. Their legacy is our foundation, and it is our responsibility to build upon it. Let us write the next chapter in this epic story, a chapter filled with hope, determination, and the unwavering belief that a better world is possible. Together, we can create a future where equality is not just a dream, but a reality for all. Echoes of equality women in the ancient world. The lives of women in ancient civilizations were complex and varied, shaped by the unique cultural, social, and economic contexts of their respective societies. They were often defined by strict social hierarchies and cultural norms which dictated their roles and opportunities within their communities. However, glimmers of equality and female empowerment can be found throughout history, challenging the notion that women's subordination is somehow inherent or inevitable. These instances highlight the resilience and agency of women in various ancient cultures. In ancient Egypt, for example, women enjoyed a surprising degree of legal and economic independence, which was quite progressive for its time. They could own property, engage in business, and even initiate divorce, giving them a level of autonomy that was rare in the ancient world. Egyptian women could also inherit and control their own wealth, a right denied to women in many other ancient societies. This economic power allowed them to participate more fully in the social and economic life of their communities. Ancient Greece, often hailed as the cradle of democracy, presents a more complicated picture when it comes to women's rights and roles. While Athenian women were largely confined to the domestic sphere, Spartan women enjoyed greater freedoms, including the right to education and physical training. This contrast highlights the diversity of women's experiences even within a single civilization. Spartan society, with its emphasis on military prowess, recognized the importance of strong and healthy women. They believed that physically fit women would produce strong warriors, thus granting them more freedom and respect. Roman society, while patriarchal, also offered women some opportunities for agency and influence within their families and communities. Roman women could inherit property, run businesses, and even influence political decisions through their husbands and sons. This allowed them to wield a certain degree of power behind the scenes. The lives of powerful women like Livia Drusilla, wife of Emperor Augustus, demonstrate the potential for female influence in Roman society. These women often played crucial roles in political and social spheres, albeit indirectly. Despite these examples, it is important to acknowledge that women in the ancient world faced significant limitations. Their freedoms were often restricted, and their roles were primarily defined by their relationships to men. They were often denied political rights, subject to the authority of men, and valued primarily for their roles as wives and mothers. This patriarchal structure limited their opportunities for personal and professional growth. However, the echoes of equality found in these ancient societies serve as a reminder that women's oppression is not a historical constant. These instances of female agency and empowerment challenge the notion that gender inequality is inevitable. It is a social construct that has been challenged and subverted throughout history. The resilience and determination of women in ancient times laid the groundwork for future generations to continue the fight for equality. These early examples of female agency and influence provide a foundation for understanding the long and complex journey towards gender equality. They remind us that the struggle for women's rights has deep historical roots, and that progress, though slow, has always been possible. Shadows and glimmers women's roles in the Middle Ages and Renaissance. The Middle Ages, often characterized by religious fervor and feudalism, witnessed a complex interplay of restrictions and opportunities for women. While the Church promoted a view of women as subservient to men, it also offered avenues for education and spiritual authority within monastic life. Women like Hildegard von Bingen, a Benedictine abbess, composer, and philosopher, defied societal norms and left an indelible mark on their time. The Renaissance, with its emphasis on humanism and intellectual curiosity, brought about a renewed interest in classical learning and a re-examination of traditional gender roles. Women like Christine de Pizan, a prolific writer and advocate for women's education, challenged prevailing misogynistic views and argued for the intellectual capabilities of women. However, the lives of most women during this period remained largely confined to the domestic sphere. Marriage, often arranged for economic or social gain, defined their social standing. Women were expected to be obedient wives, devoted mothers, and skilled homemakers. Deviations from these prescribed roles were often met with social stigma and even legal repercussions. Despite these limitations, women found ways to exert their influence and contribute to society. They worked alongside their husbands in family businesses, managed households, and played vital roles in their communities. The ingenuity and resilience of women during this period highlight their ability to navigate and challenge societal constraints. The Middle Ages and Renaissance paint a nuanced picture of women's lives, a tapestry woven with threads of both oppression and empowerment. While patriarchal structures persisted, women continued to find ways to make their voices heard, contribute to their communities, and shape the course of history. Seeds of change, enlightenment. Ideas and the rise of feminist thought. The Enlightenment, a period of unprecedented intellectual and philosophical ferment, proved to be a pivotal moment in the evolution of women's rights. This era, spanning the late 17th and 18th centuries, was characterized by a surge in intellectual activity and a questioning of traditional authority. This era, marked by a belief in reason, individual liberty, and natural rights, sparked new conversations about the role of women in society. Philosophers and thinkers began to challenge the long-standing norms that had confined women to domestic spheres and limited their opportunities. Thinkers like John Locke, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and Mary Wollstonecraft challenged traditional notions of gender and argued for the equal rights of women. Their debates and writings laid the groundwork for a new understanding of gender equality. Locke, in his two treatises of government, advocated for the natural rights of all individuals, regardless of sex. He posited that every person, by virtue of being human, was entitled to life, liberty, and property. Rousseau, while acknowledging differences between men and women, argued for the importance of women's education and their role in shaping virtuous citizens. He believed that educated women could contribute significantly to the moral and intellectual development of society. Mary Wollstonecraft, a pioneering feminist writer, published her groundbreaking work, A Vindication of the Rights of Woman, in 1792. This text was a bold and revolutionary call for the recognition of women's rights and their potential. In this seminal text, she argued passionately for the equal education of girls and boys, asserting that women, when given the same opportunities as men, could achieve intellectual and moral parity. Wollstonecraft's vision was one where women could participate fully in all aspects of society. Wollstonecraft's writings ignited a firestorm of debate and laid the groundwork for the feminist movements that would follow. Her ideas were both celebrated and criticized, but they undeniably pushed the conversation forward. The Enlightenment's emphasis on reason and individual liberty provided a powerful framework for challenging traditional gender roles. It encouraged a re-examination of the societal structures that had long kept women in subordinate positions. It encouraged women to question their prescribed place in society and to demand equal rights and opportunities. Women began to see themselves as deserving of the same freedoms and rights as men. While the immediate impact of Enlightenment ideas on women's lives was limited, the seeds of change had been sown. These ideas began to take root in the minds of many, slowly but surely altering perceptions and expectations. These ideas would continue to germinate and grow throughout the 19th century, fueling the burgeoning women's rights movement and inspiring generations of women to fight for equality. The legacy of Enlightenment thought can be seen in the persistent efforts to achieve gender equality. The Enlightenment, with its emphasis on reason, individual liberty, and natural rights, provided a powerful intellectual foundation for the dismantling of patriarchal structures and the advancement of women's rights. It set the stage for future generations to continue the struggle for equality and justice.